The silence in the Afghan mountains was deafening. Commander Jake Morrison pressed his radio one more time, his voice cracking through the static. "Base, this is Bravo 7. We have 2 men down, enemy contact imminent, and our medic is unconscious." The response was nothing but white noise. 60 kilometers behind enemy lines, cut off from extraction, with Taliban forces closing in from 3 directions, the most elite fighting unit in the world was facing annihilation. Then, from the shadows of the cave where they'd taken refuge, a quiet voice spoke up. "I can help." It was Sarah Chun, the intelligence analyst they'd mocked for weeks, calling weak, worthless, a liability. The same woman they'd tried to leave behind. Now, with his team bleeding out and nowhere to run, Morrison realized she might be their only hope for survival. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." The morning sun cast long shadows across the training compound at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, California. The air carried the sharp scent of ocean salt, mixed with the metallic tang of weapon oil and the rubber burn from endless tactical drills. Building 147 stood like a concrete fortress against the California sky, its windows reflecting the dawn light as helicopters thundered overhead in practiced formations. Inside the Intelligence and Operations Center, the atmosphere hummed with the controlled chaos of a military machine in constant motion. Radio chatter echoed off polished walls while uniformed personnel moved with purpose between workstations, lined with multiple monitors displaying satellite feeds, threat assessments, and real-time intelligence from operations across the globe. This was the epicenter of Naval Special Warfare Group 1, where the most classified missions were planned and the most dangerous operations were coordinated. Every decision made within these walls could determine the fate of American forces deployed in hostile territories thousands of miles away. The culture here was one of absolute precision, where reputation was earned through blood and sweat, and respect was a currency that few could afford. It was a place where legends were born and careers were destroyed with equal efficiency. In the corner of the main intelligence bay, almost invisible among the banks of computers and communication equipment, Sarah Chun sat at her workstation. Her Navy utilities were crisp and properly fitted, but they bore no combat ribbons, no special warfare insignia, no visible proof of the battles she'd fought in mountains far from the sterile environment. Her name tape was standard issue black thread on digital camouflage, unremarkable among the sea of similar uniforms that passed by her desk without acknowledgement. Her dark hair was pulled back in regulation style, and her posture spoke of someone accustomed to being overlooked despite possessing knowledge that could save lives. For the past 8 months, Sarah had occupied this same seat, analyzing intelligence reports, translating intercepted communications, and providing cultural assessments for missions she would never be allowed to join. Her computer screen displayed a detailed topographical map of Kandahar province, marked with red zones indicating enemy activity and green circles showing friendly positions. She traced potential infiltration routes with her finger, mentally calculating distances, terrain challenges, and civilian population densities with the precision of someone who had walked those very paths under fire. Around her, the morning briefing preparation was reaching its usual crescendo of controlled urgency. Officers moved between stations, gathering printed reports and digital files for the daily intelligence update that would shape operational planning for the next 24 hours. The conversation was sharp and professional, filled with military acronyms and tactical terminology that created an exclusive language understood only by those who had earned their place at these tables. Sarah's workstation was equipped with the same advanced systems as everyone else in the room. Multiple monitors displayed encrypted feeds from various intelligence sources. Secure communication channels connected her to field operatives and analysts across the theater of operations, and sophisticated mapping software allowed her to create detailed operational assessments with the click of a mouse. Yet despite having access to the most advanced intelligence-gathering tools in the world, Sarah often found herself relying on handwritten notes tucked into a small notebook she kept beside her keyboard. These pages contained observations gathered not from satellites or intercepted communications, but from conversations with local informants, cultural nuances that no algorithm could decode, and hard-earned wisdom from nights spent in remote villages, where survival depended on understanding the human terrain as much as the physical geography. The contrast was stark and telling. While her colleagues trusted entirely in the technological superiority that had made American Special Operations Forces legendary, Sarah understood that success in places like Afghanistan required something that couldn't be downloaded or transmitted through encrypted channels. It required the kind of knowledge that came from walking among the people, speaking their language not just fluently, but with cultural sensitivity, and understanding that in a place where tribal loyalties stretched back centuries, the most sophisticated equipment in the world could become useless without human intelligence, gathered one conversation at a time. As the morning progressed, the pace around her intensified. The daily briefing was scheduled for 0800 hours, and the preparation involved coordinating intelligence from multiple sources into a coherent picture that would guide mission planning for teams already deployed in hostile territory. Sarah's role in this process was officially limited to cultural analysis and language support, tasks that kept her safely removed from operational planning and tactical discussions. She translated documents, provided background on local customs that might affect mission success, and occasionally offered insights into the psychological profiles of high-value targets based on intercepted communications and behavioral analysis. Yet even in this supporting role, Sarah's contributions were often overlooked or minimized. Her reports were thorough and precise, filled with details that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure, but they were frequently skimmed rather than studied, treated as supplementary information rather than critical intelligence. The institutional culture of naval special warfare had been built around the supremacy of tactical prowess and technological advantage, creating an environment where other forms of expertise were viewed as less essential to mission success. This morning was no different from the dozens that had preceded it. Sarah compiled her analysis of recent enemy communications, noting subtle changes in language patterns that suggested a shift in Taliban operational priorities. She cross-referenced these observations with local informant reports and recent geographic intelligence to create a comprehensive assessment of enemy intentions in the Kandahar region. Her conclusions were detailed and actionable, supported by both electronic intelligence and human source reporting that painted a picture of increasing enemy activity along traditional smuggling routes used for centuries by traders and warriors moving between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The irony was not lost on her that while she sat in this climate-controlled environment, analyzing the very terrain where she had once operated, the men who would receive her intelligence had never set foot in an Afghan village, never negotiated with tribal elders, never experienced the complex social dynamics that could turn a friendly village into a hostile environment with a single, misunderstood gesture. Her expertise had been earned through deployments that left her with knowledge that no training program could provide. Yet that experience was now considered irrelevant to her current assignment. At precisely 0745 hours, the familiar sound of combat boots on polished concrete announced the arrival of SEAL Team 7. They entered the intelligence bay with the confident stride of men accustomed to being the most dangerous people in any room they occupied. Their uniforms were perfectly maintained, but showed the subtle signs of constant training and preparation. Each man carried himself with the particular brand of controlled aggression that marked elite warriors, their movements economical and purposeful, even in the relative safety of their home base. Commander Jake Morrison led the group, his presence immediately commanding attention from everyone in the room except Sarah, who continued working at her computer as if nothing had changed. Morrison was built like a linebacker, with broad shoulders and the kind of physical presence that dominated space without effort. His uniform displayed rows of ribbons that told the story of a career built on successful operations in the world's most dangerous places. His reputation preceded him into every room, and he had cultivated that reputation carefully through years of leading some of the most challenging missions in the special operations community. Behind Morrison came staff. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez, whose booming voice and larger-than-life personality made him impossible to ignore. Rodriguez was the kind of operator who treated dangerous missions like extreme sports, finding humor in situations that would terrify ordinary people and maintaining morale through a combination of dark humor and unshakable confidence. His laugh could be heard from across the compound, and his stories of combat operations had become legendary among the younger operators who looked up to him as a model of what a Navy SEAL should be. Petty Officer First Class Tom Bradley represented the new generation of special operations warriors, men who had grown up with advanced technology and viewed every tactical challenge as a problem to be solved through superior equipment and precise application of force. Bradley was lean and intense, with the kind of focused energy that came from years of pushing physical and mental limits in pursuit of operational excellence. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. He moved with the fluid grace of someone whose body had been honed into a precision instrument, and his eyes constantly scanned his environment with the automatic threat assessment that marked a man who had survived firefights that claimed lesser warriors. The team's arrival marked a subtle but significant shift in the room's atmosphere. Conversations became more animated, voices carried further, and the general energy level increased as if their presence had somehow amplified everything around them. This was their domain, their natural environment, and everyone else in the room acknowledged their status through small gestures of deference and respect. They were the tip of the spear, the men who would carry out whatever missions emerged from the intelligence analysis being conducted around them. Sarah remained focused on her computer screen, making final adjustments to her intelligence summary, while the SEALs gathered around a large table covered with maps and operational folders. She could hear fragments of their conversation as they discussed training schedules, equipment modifications, and upcoming deployment possibilities. Their voices carried the easy confidence of men who had never doubted their place in the military hierarchy, who had never questioned whether their expertise would be valued or their contributions recognized. The morning briefing was about to begin, bringing together the intelligence analysis that guided operations with the tactical expertise that executed them. In a few minutes, Sarah's work would be presented to the very men whose missions depended on her insights. Yet she would remain invisible in her corner, her presence acknowledged only when someone needed clarification on a cultural detail or translation of a captured document. It was a dynamic that had become so familiar she barely noticed it anymore, yet it represented a fundamental misunderstanding of how modern warfare actually worked in places where American technological superiority meant less than the ability to navigate complex human relationships that had been shaped by centuries of conflict and survival. The briefing room's overhead projector hummed to life, casting crisp digital images across the white wall that dominated the far end of the space. Commander Morrison adjusted his position at the head of the conference table, his fingers dancing across a tablet that controlled the presentation with military precision. The room itself was a testament to modern warfare technology, equipped with secure video conferencing capabilities that could connect instantly with Pentagon officials, encrypted communication systems that linked directly to field operatives, and advanced mapping software that could zoom from satellite imagery down to street-level detail in seconds. Arranged around the polished conference table sat the core leadership of SEAL Team 7, each man representing years of investment in the most advanced military training programs available. Their notebooks were digital tablets loaded with mission planning software. Their communication devices were encrypted smartphones capable of coordinating complex operations across multiple time zones. And their personal equipment represented the cutting edge of tactical technology development. Every aspect of their operational capability had been designed around the principle that American technological superiority could overcome any challenge presented by less sophisticated adversaries. Morrison tapped his tablet, and the wall display shifted to show a detailed satellite image of southeastern Afghanistan. The resolution was remarkable, clear enough to distinguish individual buildings and vehicle tracks across the desert terrain. Red overlay graphics marked known enemy positions, while blue indicators showed friendly force locations updated in real time through GPS tracking systems. Green corridors highlighted approved movement routes, and yellow zones indicated areas requiring special clearance for operations. It was a digital battlefield where every variable had been quantified, and every risk had been calculated through algorithmic analysis. Gentlemen, what you're looking at represents the most comprehensive intelligence picture we've ever had of enemy operations in Kandahar province. Morrison began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to briefing operations that would be studied in military academies for decades. Our signals intelligence has identified communication patterns that suggest a major enemy gathering scheduled for this week. Our satellite coverage provides real-time updates on enemy movement. Our predictive analysis software has calculated optimal insertion and extraction routes with 97% probability of success. Rodriguez leaned forward in his chair, studying the display with professional interest. His experience in similar operations had taught him to trust the technology that had kept his teams alive through countless missions in hostile territory. What's the target package looking like, sir? High-value individual or infrastructure? The commander touched his tablet again, and the display zoomed in on a specific compound marked with a red circle. The buildings were clearly visible, along with defensive positions and probable guard posts marked by the analysis software. High-value target confirmed through multiple intelligence sources. Enemy commander responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces throughout the region. Intelligence indicates he'll be at this location for a limited window, making this a time-sensitive operation. Bradley studied the tactical approach routes highlighted on the map, mentally rehearsing the movement patterns that would get his team to the target location undetected. What's our technological package for this one? Full-spectrum surveillance support? Morrison smiled with the confidence of someone who had never encountered a problem that couldn't be solved through superior firepower and advanced equipment. Latest generation night vision systems, real-time satellite communication, drone surveillance coordinated through our Tactical Operations Center, and emergency extraction capabilities maintained on standby throughout the operation. We'll have eyes in the sky and command support, monitoring every aspect of the mission. The presentation continued with detailed breakdowns of enemy capabilities, friendly force positioning, and technological solutions for every conceivable challenge that might arise during the operation. Weather patterns had been analyzed through meteorological modeling software, terrain obstacles had been mapped through ground-penetrating radar, and enemy response times had been calculated through artificial intelligence programs that processed thousands of variables to predict battlefield outcomes with scientific precision. Each slide of the presentation reinforced the same fundamental assumption that had guided American special operations for the past 2 decades. Superior technology, combined with exceptional training and overwhelming firepower, could overcome any tactical challenge presented by enemies who lacked access to similar capabilities. The approach had proven successful in countless operations. Across multiple theaters, creating a confidence that bordered on institutional certainty about the effectiveness of high-tech solutions to complex problems. Communication systems will provide constant contact with base operations. Morrison continued, advancing to the next slide showing sophisticated radio equipment and satellite communication devices. If anything goes wrong, if any variable changes, if any unexpected situation develops, we'll have immediate access to intelligence support and tactical guidance from analysts monitoring the operation in real time. The team members nodded with the satisfied expressions of professionals who understood they would be operating with every possible advantage. Their training had prepared them for situations where technology might fail temporarily, but the institutional culture had conditioned them to view such failures as temporary inconveniences rather than fundamental vulnerabilities. The assumption was that American technological superiority provided a safety net that would always be available when needed most. Rodriguez gestured toward the satellite imagery showing the target compound. What about local population dynamics? Any cultural considerations we need to factor into the operational planning? His question carried the tone of someone checking a routine box rather than seeking essential information. Morrison glanced at his tablet and scrolled through several screens before responding. Intelligence assessment indicates minimal civilian presence in the target area. Local population density is low, and our analysis suggests minimal risk of civilian interference with the operation. Standard rules of engagement apply, with particular emphasis on positive target identification before engagement. The response reflected the institutional approach to human terrain that treated local populations as variables to be managed rather than complex social networks that could determine mission success or failure. Cultural considerations were addressed through standardized procedures and general guidelines rather than detailed analysis of specific tribal relationships, local grievances, or historical patterns that might influence how communities responded to foreign military operations in their territory. Bradley reviewed the digital maps on his tablet, cross-referencing satellite imagery with terrain analysis provided by computer modeling programs. Looks straightforward enough. Insert at night. Neutralize the target. Extract before dawn. Classic direct action mission profile. The confidence in his voice reflected years of successful operations that had followed similar patterns. American Special Operations Forces had built their reputation on the ability to strike targets with surgical precision, minimizing risk through superior technology and overwhelming tactical advantage. The approach had become so refined that mission planning had evolved into a science, with every detail calculated and every contingency addressed through technological solutions. Morrison touched his tablet one final time, and the display shifted to show real-time weather data and updated intelligence assessments. Mission launch is scheduled for 2200 hours tomorrow. All equipment will be pre-positioned. All communication systems will be tested and verified, and all contingency plans will be activated and standing by. Questions? The room was silent except for the quiet hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of helicopter operations outside the building. Each team member reviewed his digital notes, mentally rehearsing the mission profile that would unfold exactly according to plan. Their confidence was built on years of experience with similar operations that had succeeded through the application of superior technology and tactical precision. Yet in all the detailed planning, sophisticated analysis, and technological preparation, one element had been consistently overlooked: the human dimension of operating in a place where relationships mattered more than firepower, where understanding local customs could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure, where knowledge gained through years of living among the people could not be replaced by satellite imagery or computer analysis, no matter how sophisticated. Down the hall in the intelligence bay, Sarah Chun continued her analysis of the same target area, but her assessment painted a different picture entirely. Her computer screen displayed the same satellite imagery that had dominated the briefing room, but her handwritten notes told a story that no technological system could capture. The target compound was located in an area where 3 different tribal territories intersected, creating complex political dynamics that could influence how local populations responded to foreign military operations. Her sources within the local community had reported unusual activity in the region, not just the enemy gathering that had triggered the mission planning, but subtle changes in local behavior patterns that suggested something more significant was developing. Village elders had been meeting in private. Traditional trade routes had been altered without apparent economic justification, and local informants had become increasingly reluctant to provide information about enemy activities. Sarah's analysis went deeper than the technological intelligence gathering systems that guided official mission planning. Her understanding of local culture told her that the target compound was not just a military facility, but a location with historical significance to local tribes. Her knowledge of regional politics suggested that any military action in that area could trigger responses that would extend far beyond the immediate tactical situation. Her experience operating in similar environments had taught her that success required building relationships and understanding motivations that could not be detected through electronic surveillance or satellite imagery. She had attempted to include these observations in her intelligence reports, but they had been categorized as supplementary cultural information rather than critical operational intelligence. The institutional preference for quantifiable data and technological solutions created a systematic bias against the kind of human intelligence that could make the difference between mission success and disaster. As Sarah compiled her final assessment, she noticed discrepancies between the official intelligence picture and the information she had gathered through human sources. The timing of the enemy gathering coincided with local religious observances that could bring additional civilians into the area. The target compound's location placed it within traditional sanctuary boundaries that local tribes had respected for generations. The planned extraction route would take the team through terrain that was geographically suitable but culturally problematic, potentially creating unnecessary conflicts with local populations who might otherwise remain neutral. Her concerns were detailed and specific, backed by years of experience operating in environments where cultural sensitivity determined operational outcomes. Yet she knew that these observations would be dismissed as overcautious analysis from someone who lacked current operational experience. The institutional culture valued the confidence of those who planned direct action missions over the caution of those who understood the complexity of human terrain in hostile environments. The contrast between the two approaches to the same mission reflected a fundamental divide within the special operations community. On one side stood those who believed that American technological superiority and tactical excellence could overcome any challenge through the application of superior firepower and advanced equipment. On the other side were those who understood that success in places like Afghanistan required something that could not be downloaded or transmitted through encrypted communication systems. This divide had been growing for years as American military operations increasingly relied on technological solutions to complex human problems. The institutional preference for quantifiable intelligence over cultural analysis had created blind spots that could prove dangerous when operations moved beyond the controlled environment of military bases into the unpredictable reality of foreign communities with their own agendas and priorities. As the morning progressed, the final preparations for the mission continued according to established procedures. Equipment was inspected and tested, communication systems were verified and encrypted, and transportation assets were positioned and ready for immediate deployment. Every technological aspect of the operation had been planned and rehearsed until it functioned with mechanical precision. Yet the human element remained largely unexplored. The team that would execute the mission had never operated in that specific region before. had never interacted with the local tribes who controlled movement through the area, and had never experienced the complex social dynamics that could turn a routine operation into a strategic disaster. Their training had prepared them for tactical challenges, but not for the cultural complexities that define success in counterinsurgency operations. Sarah remained at her workstation, continuing her analysis even though she knew her insights would not influence the mission planning that was already complete. Her dedication to thoroughness was a professional habit developed through years of operations, where overlooked details had cost lives and failed missions. She understood that intelligence analysis was not just about providing information, but about painting a complete picture that could guide decision-making in life-or-death situations. The morning briefing had concluded with confident predictions of mission success based on technological superiority and tactical precision. The team that would execute the operation felt prepared for any challenge they might encounter, supported by the most advanced military technology available. Their confidence was built on years of successful operations that had followed similar patterns and achieved similar results. Yet as Sarah reviewed her analysis one final time, she could not shake the feeling that something critical was being overlooked. Her experience had taught her that the most dangerous missions were often those that appeared most straightforward, and that overconfidence in technological solutions could create vulnerabilities that enemies could exploit with devastating effectiveness. The stage was set for a confrontation between two different approaches to modern warfare. On one side stood the institutional confidence in technological superiority and tactical precision that had guided American special operations for decades. On the other side stood the hard-earned wisdom of someone who understood that success in places like Afghanistan required something that could not be calculated by computer algorithms or detected through satellite surveillance. As the day progressed toward mission launch, both approaches would be tested in the crucible of actual combat. The outcome would determine not just the success or failure of a single operation, but the validity of competing philosophies about how modern warfare should be conducted in environments where cultural understanding mattered as much as tactical precision. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows of Building 147, casting long shadows across the intelligence bay where Sarah continued her work. Her computer screen displayed updated satellite feeds showing the target area in real time, but her attention remained focused on the handwritten notes that contained information no technological system could provide. The disconnect between official intelligence and human reality had never been more apparent, and the consequences of that disconnect would soon be tested in the mountains of Afghanistan, where mistakes could not be corrected through technological solutions. Around her, the final preparations for the mission continued with mechanical precision. Equipment was loaded, personnel were briefed, and communication systems were tested one final time. Every aspect of the operation had been planned and rehearsed until it functioned with the reliability of a well-maintained machine. Yet the human element remained the one variable that could not be controlled through technological superiority or tactical precision. As evening approached, SEAL Team 7 gathered for their final equipment check and mission rehearsal. Their confidence remained unshaken by doubts or cultural considerations that seemed irrelevant to the tactical challenges they expected to face. They were the best-trained, best-equipped fighting force in the world, and they approached the upcoming mission with the certainty that their capabilities would prove superior to any challenge they might encounter. In her corner of the intelligence bay, Sarah completed her final assessment and submitted it through official channels, knowing that it would likely be filed rather than studied. Her recommendations for cultural sensitivity and local engagement would be categorized as supplementary information rather than critical operational guidance. The institutional preference for technological solutions over human insight had been established through years of successful operations, and one intelligence analyst's concerns would not alter mission planning that had already been approved at the highest levels. The collision between these two approaches to modern warfare was now inevitable. In less than 12 hours, SEAL Team 7 would insert into hostile territory with confidence in their technological superiority and tactical precision. They would carry the most advanced equipment available and operate with real-time support from intelligence analysts monitoring the situation from thousands of miles away. Their training had prepared them for tactical challenges, and their experience had taught them to trust in American military superiority. Yet they would be operating in an environment where cultural sensitivity mattered more than firepower, where local relationships determined survival more than advanced equipment, and where understanding human terrain could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. The stage was set for a test that would challenge fundamental assumptions about how modern warfare should be conducted in complex cultural environments. The evening briefing confirmed final mission parameters and verified that all technological systems were functioning according to specifications. Weather conditions were optimal, satellite coverage was confirmed, and communication systems were tested and ready. Every quantifiable aspect of the mission had been calculated and prepared for success. The human elements that could not be measured or controlled through technology remained outside the scope of mission planning, treated as variables that would be managed through standard procedures and established protocols. As darkness fell over Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, the final preparations were completed with the precision that had made American Special Operations Forces legendary. Equipment was loaded onto aircraft, personnel were positioned for immediate deployment, and command centers were staffed with analysts ready to provide real-time support throughout the operation. The technological infrastructure that supported modern warfare had been activated and was functioning at peak efficiency. Yet in the quiet corner of the intelligence bay, Sarah Chun remained at her workstation, her concern growing as she reviewed final intelligence updates that confirmed her earlier assessments. The mission that appeared straightforward through technological analysis was revealing itself to be far more complex when viewed through the lens of cultural understanding and human intelligence. Her years of experience operating in similar environments had taught her to recognize warning signs that sophisticated computer algorithms could not detect. The fundamental question that would be answered in the mountains of Afghanistan was whether American technological superiority could overcome the cultural complexities that define success in counterinsurgency operations. The answer would determine not just the fate of SEAL Team 7, but the validity of institutional assumptions about how modern warfare should be conducted in environments where understanding people mattered as much as destroying targets. Morrison entered the intelligence bay for one final briefing update, his presence commanding immediate attention from the analysts monitoring various intelligence feeds. His confidence remained unshaken as he reviewed satellite imagery showing clear conditions and optimal tactical circumstances for the mission. The technological picture painted a scenario where American military superiority would prove decisive, just as it had in countless previous operations. Sarah looked up from her workstation as Morrison approached, her expression reflecting concerns that went beyond the quantifiable intelligence displayed on the surrounding monitors. She had served in combat operations long enough to recognize the warning signs that appeared when technological confidence encountered cultural complexity. Her attempts to communicate these concerns through official channels had been unsuccessful, but her professional responsibility demanded one final effort to ensure that critical information reached those who would be placing their lives at risk. "Commander, I've completed my cultural analysis of the target area," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of experience gained through years of operations in similar environments. "There are some factors that might not be reflected in the technological intelligence assessments." Morrison glanced at her workstation, noting the handwritten notes that seemed anachronistic among the sophisticated computer systems that dominated the intelligence bay. His expression reflected the institutional bias that valued quantifiable data over cultural insights that could not be easily categorized or analyzed through established procedures. The technological intelligence picture is clear. He responded with the confidence of someone who had never encountered a problem that could not be solved through superior firepower and advanced equipment. Satellite surveillance confirms enemy positions. Electronic intelligence has identified communication patterns, and predictive analysis software has calculated optimal operational parameters. What additional factors could possibly alter mission planning that has been verified through multiple technological systems? Sarah's response would determine whether her years of experience and cultural expertise would influence an operation that was about to test fundamental assumptions about modern warfare. Her words would either bridge the gap between technological confidence and human understanding, or confirm the institutional preference for quantifiable solutions over cultural insights that defied easy categorization. The moment represented more than just a conversation between two military professionals with different perspectives on mission planning. It embodied the broader challenge facing American military operations in complex cultural environments where technological superiority alone could not guarantee success. The outcome would be determined not in the comfortable environment of a military base equipped with advanced technology, but in the harsh reality of foreign territory where cultural understanding mattered as much as tactical precision. The tension in the intelligence bay became palpable as Morrison's question hung in the air like a challenge waiting to be answered. Sarah felt the familiar weight of institutional skepticism that had followed her throughout her assignment at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. She understood that her next words would either open a door to meaningful dialogue or confirm the prevailing assumption that cultural analysis was secondary to technological intelligence gathering. Her years of experience had taught her to choose her battles carefully, but the lives that would soon be at risk demanded that she make one more attempt to bridge the gap between human understanding and digital certainty. "Sir, the target compound sits at the intersection of 3 tribal territories," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the dismissive expression on Morrison's face. "My sources indicate that this location has historical significance that extends beyond its current military value. The building complex was constructed on what local tribes consider neutral ground, a place where traditional disputes were resolved through negotiation rather than violence. Any military action there could be interpreted as a violation of sacred space, potentially turning sympathetic populations hostile." Morrison glanced at his watch with the impatience of someone whose schedule was measured in military precision rather than cultural sensitivity. His body language conveyed the message that he was tolerating this conversation rather than engaging with its substance. The institutional culture that had shaped his career valued quantifiable intelligence over cultural insights that could not be easily measured or verified through technological systems. "Chun, we appreciate the cultural background information," Morrison replied with the tone of someone addressing a subordinate whose expertise was considered supplementary to real operational planning. "However, our mission parameters are based on verified intelligence gathered through multiple technological sources. Satellite surveillance has confirmed enemy positions, electronic intercepts have identified communication patterns, and predictive modeling has calculated optimal tactical approaches. Cultural considerations are noted and will be factored into our rules of engagement protocols." The dismissal was polite but absolute, reflecting years of successful operations that had relied on technological superiority rather than cultural sensitivity. Morrison's confidence was built on a foundation of missions that had achieved their objectives through the application of superior firepower and advanced equipment, creating an institutional bias that viewed other forms of intelligence as interesting but ultimately irrelevant to tactical success. Sarah felt the familiar frustration of being heard but not listened to, acknowledged but not understood. Her experience had taught her that the most dangerous operations were often those that appeared most straightforward, and that overconfidence in technological solutions could create blind spots that enemies could exploit with devastating effectiveness. Yet the institutional culture made it nearly impossible for cultural insights to influence operational planning that had already been approved through established channels. "Commander, there's something else," Sarah continued, her professional responsibility overriding her awareness that her words were unlikely to change mission parameters that had been set in motion through bureaucratic momentum that rarely accommodated last-minute adjustments based on human intelligence. Local informants have reported unusual activity in the region that doesn't match the patterns identified through electronic surveillance. Village meetings that fall outside normal social rhythms, changes in traditional trade routes that suggest communities are preparing for something significant. Morrison's expression shifted from polite tolerance to visible irritation, reflecting the institutional preference for intelligence that could be quantified and verified through multiple technological sources rather than human observations that defied easy categorization. His training had conditioned him to trust information that could be displayed on screens and analyzed through computer algorithms rather than insights that required cultural knowledge and human interpretation. "Chun, I need you to understand something fundamental about how special operations work," Morrison said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never doubted the effectiveness of American military methodology. "We plan missions based on actionable intelligence that can be verified and confirmed through multiple sources. Cultural observations, while interesting from an academic perspective, cannot be allowed to override tactical planning that has been developed through proven methodologies and advanced technological analysis." The response encapsulated the institutional divide that had been growing within the special operations community as technological capabilities advanced faster than cultural understanding. Morrison represented a generation of officers who had built their careers on the assumption that American military superiority could overcome any challenge through the application of advanced equipment and tactical precision, while Sarah embodied the hard-earned wisdom of those who understood that success in complex cultural environments required something that could not be downloaded or transmitted through encrypted communication systems. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez approached the conversation with the easy confidence of someone who had never encountered a tactical challenge that could not be resolved through superior training and overwhelming firepower. His presence immediately shifted the dynamic of the discussion, adding the weight of operational experience to Morrison's institutional authority. Rodriguez had earned his reputation through successful missions in hostile environments, creating a credibility that made his opinions influential among both officers and enlisted personnel. "Ma'am, with all due respect," Rodriguez interjected, his tone carrying the condescending politeness that military professionals used when addressing civilians whose expertise was considered irrelevant to operational realities. "We've been conducting successful operations in Afghanistan for years using the same technological intelligence gathering methods that are guiding this mission. Our track record speaks for itself when it comes to neutralizing high-value targets through precision tactical operations." His words reflected the institutional confidence that had been built through years of operations that had achieved their immediate tactical objectives without considering the broader strategic implications of cultural insensitivity. The special operations community had developed a culture that measured success through mission completion rates and enemy casualties rather than long-term stability and community relationships that required cultural understanding and human intelligence. Sarah recognized the futility of continuing a conversation that had been predetermined by institutional biases that valued technological solutions over human insights. Her years of experience had taught her to recognize when professional resistance had hardened into bureaucratic obstinacy that could not be overcome through logical argument or cultural expertise. Yet her sense of professional responsibility demanded that she make one final attempt to ensure that critical information reached those whose lives would depend on understanding the human terrain they were about to enter. "Sergeant, I understand that technological intelligence has guided successful operations," Sarah replied, choosing her words carefully to avoid triggering defensive reactions that would close down communication entirely. "My concern is that this particular operation involves variables that may not be captured through electronic surveillance or satellite imagery. The local population dynamics in this region are more complex than they appear through technological analysis." Rodriguez's laugh carried the dismissive humor that military professionals use to deflect concerns that challenge their institutional confidence. His body language conveyed the message that cultural considerations were academic luxuries that had no place in operational planning designed to achieve tactical objectives through superior firepower and advanced equipment. "Ma'am, I appreciate your dedication to thoroughness," Rodriguez responded with the patronizing tone that had become standard when addressing support personnel whose expertise was considered supplementary to real military work. "But we're trained to adapt to any situation we encounter in the field. Our equipment gives us capabilities that can overcome any tactical challenge, and our training has prepared us for cultural variables that might influence mission execution." The confidence in his voice reflected years of successful operations that had reinforced institutional assumptions about American military superiority. Rodriguez had never experienced a situation where cultural misunderstanding had compromised mission success, creating a bias that viewed such concerns as theoretical problems, rather than practical challenges that could determine operational outcomes. Petty Officer Bradley joined the conversation with the technological enthusiasm that characterized the newest generation of special operations warriors. His career had been built entirely within the era of advanced military technology, creating a worldview that saw every tactical challenge as a problem to be solved through superior equipment and precise application of digital solutions. His confidence was absolute because his experience had never included situations where technology had failed to provide adequate solutions. "The intelligence picture is crystal clear," Bradley stated, with the certainty of someone who had never questioned the reliability of technological systems. "Satellite surveillance gives us real-time updates on enemy positions. Electronic intercepts provide insight into enemy communications and planning, and our tactical systems allow us to coordinate responses to any unexpected developments." Cultural factors are interesting background information, but they don't change the fundamental tactical realities that determine mission success. His words embodied the institutional faith in technological solutions that had shaped American military doctrine for the past 2 decades. Bradley represented a generation that had grown up with advanced computer systems and digital communication, creating a confidence that technological superiority could overcome any challenge presented by less sophisticated adversaries operating without similar capabilities. The conversation had reached the point where institutional momentum had overcome individual concerns, where bureaucratic confidence had displaced professional caution, and where technological faith had superseded cultural understanding. Sarah recognized that further argument would only reinforce the perception that her concerns were based on overcautious analysis rather than legitimate operational intelligence that could influence mission success. Around them, the intelligence bay continued its normal operations, with analysts monitoring various feeds and communication systems maintaining contact with field operatives across multiple theaters of operation. The technological infrastructure that supported modern warfare functioned with mechanical precision, creating an environment where digital information was processed and analyzed according to established procedures that had been refined through years of successful operations. Yet beneath the surface efficiency of technological systems lay human dynamics that could not be captured through electronic surveillance or analyzed through computer algorithms. The target area where SEAL Team 7 would soon operate contained social networks, tribal relationships, and cultural sensitivities that had been shaped by centuries of conflict and survival. in harsh terrain where foreign armies had learned painful lessons about the importance of understanding local populations. Sarah returned to her workstation with the resignation of someone who had fulfilled her professional responsibility despite institutional resistance to information that challenged established assumptions. Her computer screen displayed the same satellite imagery that had guided mission planning, but her handwritten notes contained insights that no technological system could provide about the human terrain that would determine whether the operation succeeded or failed. The contrast between technological confidence and cultural understanding had never been more apparent. On one side stood the institutional faith in advanced equipment and digital analysis that had guided American military operations for decades. On the other side lay the hard-earned wisdom of those who understood that success in places like Afghanistan required something that could not be calculated through computer modeling or detected through satellite surveillance. As the afternoon progressed toward evening and mission launch approached, the final preparations continued according to established procedures that had been refined through years of similar operations. Equipment was inspected and tested according to technical specifications. Communication systems were verified and encrypted according to security protocols, and personnel were briefed according to standard procedures that addressed tactical challenges through technological solutions. Morrison gathered his team for final equipment checks that focused on the mechanical aspects of mission preparation rather than the human elements that could determine operational outcomes. Each piece of equipment was tested according to manufacturer specifications. Each communication device was verified according to technical requirements, and each weapon system was calibrated according to ballistic calculations that had been verified through computer analysis. The process reflected the institutional confidence in technological solutions that had shaped special operations doctrine for the past generation. Every quantifiable aspect of the mission had been planned and rehearsed until it functioned with mechanical precision, yet the human variables that could not be controlled through advanced equipment remained outside the scope of mission planning. Rodriguez supervised weapons checks with the thoroughness that had made him legendary among younger operators who looked to him as a model of professional competence. His expertise with tactical equipment was unquestioned, and his ability to maintain operational readiness under adverse conditions had been proven through years of successful missions in hostile environments. Every piece of equipment has been tested and verified, Rodriguez announced with the satisfaction of someone whose professional standards had never been compromised by circumstances beyond his control. Communication systems are functioning according to specifications, weapons are calibrated for optimal performance, and navigation equipment has been updated with the latest satellite data. We're prepared for any tactical challenge we might encounter. His confidence reflected years of operations where superior equipment had provided decisive advantages over enemies who lacked access to similar technological capabilities. Rodriguez had never experienced a situation where cultural misunderstanding had negated technological superiority, creating a bias that viewed such possibilities as theoretical concerns rather than practical challenges that could determine mission outcomes. Bradley completed his digital systems checks with the efficiency that characterized the newest generation of military professionals. His tablet displayed real-time updates from various intelligence sources. His communication devices were encrypted and tested according to security requirements, and his navigation systems were synchronized with satellite networks that provided precise positioning data accurate to within meters. All digital systems are online and functioning optimally, Bradley reported with the technological enthusiasm that had shaped his military career. We have real-time satellite coverage, encrypted communication capabilities, and digital mapping. Systems that provide detailed terrain analysis updated continuously through multiple intelligence sources. Technology gives us every possible advantage for mission success. His words reflected the institutional faith in digital solutions that had become central to American military doctrine. Bradley had never operated in an environment where technological systems had failed completely, creating a confidence that advanced equipment could overcome any challenge presented by enemies operating with inferior capabilities. The team's preparation continued with mechanical precision, as each element of the mission was verified and confirmed according to established procedures. Their confidence was built on years of successful operations that had followed similar patterns and achieved similar results through the application of superior technology and tactical training. Yet as evening approached and final preparations neared completion, an undercurrent of complexity remained beneath the surface confidence of technological superiority. The human terrain where they would soon operate contained variables that could not be measured through electronic sensors or analyzed through computer algorithms, factors that had been systematically excluded from mission planning despite their potential to determine operational outcomes. Morrison reviewed final intelligence updates on his tablet, noting satellite imagery that confirmed optimal weather conditions and enemy positions that matched predictive modeling calculations. Every technological indicator suggested that the mission would proceed according to plan, with American superiority in equipment and training, providing decisive advantages over enemy forces operating without similar capabilities. His confidence remained unshaken by cultural considerations that seemed irrelevant to tactical challenges that would be resolved through superior firepower and advanced technology. The institutional culture that had shaped his career valued quantifiable intelligence over human insights that defied easy categorization, creating blind spots that could prove dangerous when operations moved beyond controlled environments into unpredictable cultural terrain. Rodriguez and Bradley completed their final preparations with the professional competence that had made SEAL Team 7 legendary within the special operations community. Their equipment was tested and ready, their communication systems were verified and encrypted, and their tactical plans were rehearsed and coordinated through technological systems that had proven reliable in countless previous operations. Yet their preparation had focused exclusively on mechanical and tactical challenges, while ignoring human dynamics that could influence mission success in ways that no amount of advanced equipment could overcome. Their training had prepared them for firefights and tactical obstacles, but not for cultural complexities that required understanding rather than firepower to resolve successfully. As darkness fell over Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, the final elements of mission preparation were completed with the precision that had made American Special Operations Forces legendary. Aircraft were positioned and ready for immediate deployment. Communication centers were staffed and operational, and technological systems were tested and functioning according to specifications. The stage was set for a test that would challenge fundamental assumptions about modern warfare in complex cultural environments. SEAL Team 7 would soon operate in terrain where technological superiority would be tested against human dynamics that could not be controlled through advanced equipment or tactical precision. Sarah remained at her workstation as the base prepared for mission launch, her concern growing as she reviewed final intelligence updates that confirmed her earlier cultural assessments. The operation that appeared straightforward through technological analysis was revealing itself to be far more complex when viewed through the lens of human intelligence, gathered through years of experience in similar environments. Her handwritten notes contained warnings that no computer algorithm could generate about cultural sensitivities and local dynamics that could turn a routine operation into a strategic disaster. Yet her insights remained categorized as supplementary information rather than critical operational intelligence that could influence mission planning approved through established bureaucratic channels. The fundamental question that would soon be answered in the mountains of Afghanistan was whether American technological superiority could overcome cultural complexities that had challenged foreign armies for centuries. The answer would be written not in the comfortable environment of military bases equipped with advanced technology, but in harsh terrain where understanding people mattered as much as destroying targets. As mission launch approached, both approaches to modern warfare would be tested in conditions where mistakes could not be corrected through technological solutions or bureaucratic procedures. The collision between institutional confidence and cultural reality was about to unfold in an environment where the stakes could not be higher and the margin for error did not exist. The quiet hum of technological systems continued throughout Building 147 as final preparations reached completion. Yet beneath the surface efficiency lay human dynamics that would soon determine whether confidence in advanced equipment could overcome the cultural complexities that define success in counterinsurgency. Operations conducted in foreign territory where local populations held the ultimate power to determine operational outcomes. The MH-60 Black Hawk helicopter sliced through the Afghan night sky with mechanical precision, its rotors beating a steady rhythm against the thin mountain air at 8,000 feet altitude. Inside the cramped passenger compartment, SEAL Team 7 sat in tactical formation, their advanced equipment secured and their communication systems tested one final time before insertion into hostile territory. The aircraft's navigation systems displayed precise coordinates, updated continuously through satellite links, while infrared cameras provided real-time surveillance of the terrain below through feeds transmitted directly to their helmet-mounted displays. Commander Morrison reviewed digital maps on his ruggedized tablet, cross-referencing satellite imagery with intelligence, updates that painted a clear picture of enemy positions and optimal approach routes. Every technological system functioned exactly as designed, providing the team with capabilities that had proven decisive in countless similar operations across multiple theaters of combat. The confidence that filled the passenger compartment was built on years of successful missions that had relied on superior equipment and tactical precision to overcome any challenge presented by less sophisticated adversaries. Rodriguez checked his weapon systems one final time, ensuring that night vision scopes were calibrated and communication devices were synchronized with command frequencies that would provide constant contact with base operations throughout the mission. His gear represented the cutting edge of military technology development, from encrypted radios that could penetrate electronic jamming to tactical computers that processed battlefield information in real time. The weight of advanced equipment was familiar and reassuring, a technological safety net that had never failed when survival depended on American military superiority. Bradley monitored multiple data streams flowing across his tactical display, watching enemy movement patterns tracked through drone surveillance and satellite reconnaissance that provided comprehensive coverage of the operational area. The digital battlefield appeared completely mapped and understood, with every variable quantified and every risk calculated through algorithmic analysis that had been refined through years of successful operations. His confidence was absolute because technology had never presented him with a problem that could not be solved through superior equipment and precise application of digital solutions. The helicopter's communication system crackled with updates from base operations, confirming that all technological support systems remained online and functional. Weather conditions were optimal according to meteorological analysis. Enemy positions matched predictive modeling calculations, and extraction assets were positioned and ready for immediate response to any tactical developments. Every quantifiable aspect of the mission had been verified and confirmed through multiple technological sources that painted a picture of overwhelming American advantage. Yet as the aircraft approached the insertion point, none of the advanced systems could detect the human dynamics that were already reshaping the operational environment in ways that would soon challenge every assumption about technological superiority. Local tribal leaders had been meeting throughout the evening, discussing reports of foreign aircraft movements that suggested military operations were being planned in territory that held significance beyond its immediate tactical value. Village elders who had remained neutral in previous conflicts were reconsidering their positions, based on cultural factors that no satellite could observe or algorithm could analyze. The insertion proceeded exactly according to plan, with the helicopter touching down briefly in a predetermined landing zone that had been selected through computer analysis of terrain features and tactical considerations. SEAL Team 7 deployed with mechanical precision, their movements coordinated through communication systems that maintained constant contact with command centers monitoring the operation from thousands of miles away. Every piece of equipment functioned as designed, and every procedural element was executed according to training that had been refined through years of similar operations. Morrison led his team across terrain that appeared exactly as satellite imagery had indicated, following routes that had been calculated through geographical analysis and confirmed through drone reconnaissance. Their night vision systems provided clear visibility in conditions that would have blinded earlier generations of warriors, while GPS navigation ensured that they remained precisely on course toward objectives that had been identified through electronic intelligence and verified through multiple technological sources. The confidence that had filled their pre-mission briefings remained intact as they moved through landscape that seemed to confirm every assumption about American technological superiority. Their equipment performed flawlessly, their communication systems maintained contact with base operations, and their tactical situation matched predictive modeling that had calculated optimal approaches to neutralizing high-value targets through precision application of superior firepower. Rodriguez monitored enemy positions through thermal imaging systems that painted a clear picture of hostile forces, exactly where intelligence analysis had predicted they would be located. The technological advantage was overwhelming, providing capabilities that enemy forces could not match or counter through conventional means. Every indicator suggested that the mission would proceed according to plan, with American superiority in equipment and training providing decisive advantages that would ensure tactical success. Bradley coordinated with drone assets that provided real-time surveillance coverage of the operational area, confirming that enemy movements matched intelligence assessments and that no unexpected developments had altered the tactical situation. The digital battlefield remained completely transparent to technological observation, creating confidence that every variable had been identified and every risk had been calculated through analytical methods that had proven reliable in countless previous operations. As they approached the target compound, every technological system confirmed that conditions remained optimal for mission execution. Satellite communication provided constant updates from command centers. Electronic surveillance detected no unexpected enemy activities, and tactical computers processed information flows that painted a picture of complete situational awareness through technological means that had never failed when American forces faced less sophisticated adversaries. The assault on the compound proceeded with mechanical precision that reflected years of training and technological preparation. Explosive charges breached defensive barriers exactly as calculated. Night vision systems provided clear visibility for tactical movements, and communication systems coordinated team actions through encrypted frequencies that enemy forces could not intercept or jam. Every piece of equipment functioned according to specifications, and every procedural element was executed according to doctrine that had been proven through successful operations. Yet within minutes of entering the target area, the technological confidence that had guided mission planning began to encounter realities that had not been anticipated through digital analysis. The compound was empty, abandoned with signs of hasty evacuation that suggested local populations had provided advance warning to enemy forces through communication networks that operated below the threshold of electronic surveillance. The high-value target had vanished along with intelligence materials that had been the primary objective of the entire operation. Morrison's initial response reflected institutional training that had conditioned him to trust technological solutions. overhuman intelligence that could not be easily quantified or verified. His tactical computer indicated that enemy forces should be present according to satellite surveillance and electronic intercepts, creating cognitive dissonance between digital information and physical reality that challenged fundamental assumptions about the reliability of advanced analytical systems. Rodriguez attempted to establish communication with base operations to report the unexpected development, but discovered that enemy forces had activated jamming systems that interfered with satellite communication despite technological countermeasures that should have provided reliable connectivity under any operational conditions. The equipment that had functioned flawlessly during countless previous missions was encountering challenges that had not been anticipated through technological analysis or addressed through standard procedures. Bradley's tactical display showed information that no longer matched the situation they were actually facing, creating confusion between digital representations of the battlefield and physical realities that were developing according to enemy plans that had anticipated American reliance on technological systems. The confidence that had been built through years of successful operations was beginning to erode as technological superiority encountered human dynamics that operated outside the parameters of algorithmic analysis. The tactical situation deteriorated rapidly as enemy forces launched coordinated attacks from positions that had not been detected through satellite surveillance or electronic reconnaissance. The assault came from directions that computer modeling had calculated as unlikely based on terrain analysis, yet local knowledge of traditional fighting positions allowed enemy fighters to achieve tactical advantages that negated American technological superiority through understanding of human terrain that no digital system could provide. Communication systems that had maintained reliable contact with base operations throughout the insertion phase began experiencing systematic failures that suggested enemy capabilities had been underestimated through intelligence analysis that relied exclusively on technological observation. The jamming was sophisticated and targeted, designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities in American communication protocols that enemy forces had studied and learned to counter through methods that operated below the threshold of electronic detection. Morrison found his team isolated in hostile territory with wounded personnel, degraded communication capabilities, and tactical situations that had not been anticipated through mission planning that relied on technological solutions to overcome any challenge presented by less sophisticated adversaries. The equipment that should have provided decisive advantages was failing to function in an operational environment that had been shaped by human dynamics rather than technological factors. Rodriguez attempted to treat wounded team members using advanced medical equipment that required electronic systems to function optimally, but discovered that sophisticated devices designed for controlled environments were less effective in field conditions where basic medical knowledge and human judgment mattered more than technological capabilities. The medical training that had been integrated with advanced equipment was proving inadequate when technological systems could not provide the digital support that had been assumed would always be available. Bradley's navigation systems were providing conflicting information as enemy forces used local terrain knowledge to create tactical confusion that exploited American dependence on electronic positioning data. The GPS coordinates that had guided their insertion were being manipulated through electronic warfare techniques that had not been anticipated through intelligence analysis, creating disorientation that could prove fatal in hostile territory, where local knowledge provided enemy forces with decisive advantages. As the situation continued to deteriorate, Morrison was forced to acknowledge that technological superiority alone could not overcome the human dynamics that were reshaping the operational environment according to cultural factors that had been systematically excluded from mission planning. The confidence that had guided his career was being challenged by realities that could not be addressed through advanced equipment or standard procedures that had been developed for different types Of tactical challenges. The team took refuge in a cave system that provided temporary protection from enemy forces, but their tactical situation remained desperate as communication failures prevented them from coordinating extraction support or receiving intelligence updates that might guide their efforts to reach friendly territory. The technological infrastructure that supported modern warfare had been compromised through enemy actions that exploited American dependence on digital systems while operating through human networks that remained invisible to electronic surveillance. Rodriguez's medical training was being tested by injuries that required immediate attention under field conditions where advanced equipment could not compensate for lack of basic knowledge about treating trauma in austere environments. His confidence in technological solutions was being challenged by situations that demanded human judgment and practical experience rather than reliance on sophisticated devices that had been designed for controlled environments rather than combat operations in hostile territory. Bradley's attempts to re-establish communication with base operations were unsuccessful as enemy jamming continued to exploit vulnerabilities in American technological systems that had been considered reliable under any operational conditions. The digital superiority that had shaped his military career was proving inadequate when facing adversaries who understood how to neutralize technological advantages through techniques that operated outside the parameters of conventional electronic warfare. As enemy forces closed in on their position, Morrison realized that his team's survival depended on capabilities that had not been emphasized during training focused on technological solutions and tactical precision. The human dynamics that had been dismissed as irrelevant to mission planning were now determining whether they would live or die in territory where cultural understanding mattered more than advanced equipment. From the shadows of the cave where the team had taken shelter, a quiet voice broke through the tactical confusion that had paralyzed their decision-making processes. Sarah Chun emerged from the darkness where she had been positioned as part of the support element that had been dismissed as unnecessary for operational success. Her presence on the mission had been reluctantly accepted as a bureaucratic requirement rather than tactical necessity, yet she now represented their only hope for survival in an environment where her expertise had suddenly become more valuable than any technological system. Morrison's initial reaction reflected the institutional bias that had shaped his career, questioning how someone who lacked current operational experience could provide solutions that advanced technology and tactical training had failed to deliver. Yet his desperation was greater than his prejudice as he realized that conventional approaches to the tactical challenges they faced had proven inadequate when confronting enemies who understood how to exploit American dependence on technological superiority. Sarah's assessment of their situation reflected knowledge gained through years of operating in similar environments where survival had depended on understanding human terrain rather than relying on technological solutions. Her analysis painted a picture of cultural dynamics that explained why their mission had failed and why enemy forces had been able to achieve tactical advantages that negated American superiority in equipment and training. The compound had been evacuated because local tribal networks had provided advance warning through communication systems that operated below the threshold of electronic surveillance. The enemy positions that had not been detected through satellite reconnaissance were based on traditional fighting locations that had been used for centuries by warriors who understood local terrain better than any computer algorithm could analyze. The jamming systems that had degraded American communication capabilities were sophisticated because enemy forces had studied and learned to counter technological systems through human intelligence networks that remained invisible to digital observation. Sarah's understanding of local cultural dynamics provided insight into enemy tactics that had not been anticipated through technological analysis focused on quantifiable variables rather than human relationships that determined how communities responded to foreign military operations in their territory. Her knowledge of tribal politics explained why populations that should have remained neutral, according to computer modeling, had instead chosen to support enemy forces through information networks that no satellite could detect or algorithm could analyze. Morrison's resistance to accepting guidance from someone whose expertise had been systematically dismissed throughout mission planning began to erode as tactical realities forced him to acknowledge that conventional approaches to their situation had proven inadequate. The technological superiority that had guided his career was failing to provide solutions that could overcome human dynamics that operated according to cultural factors rather than digital parameters. Rodriguez's medical expertise was enhanced by Sarah's knowledge of field trauma treatment that had been developed through years of operating in austere environments where advanced equipment was not available and survival depended on practical techniques that could be implemented using basic supplies. Her understanding of local plants that could be used for medical purposes provided options that sophisticated pharmaceutical supplies could not match when treating injuries under field conditions. Bradley's navigation challenges were addressed through Sarah's knowledge of local terrain features that had cultural significance beyond their geographical characteristics. Her understanding of traditional travel routes used by local populations for centuries provided alternatives to GPS coordinates that had been compromised through enemy electronic warfare techniques designed to exploit American dependence on technological positioning systems. Sarah's plan for reaching safety required the team to abandon reliance on technological solutions in favor of human intelligence that had been gathered through years of building relationships with local populations who understood the political dynamics that determined which communities could be trusted and which areas should be avoided. Her approach emphasized cultural sensitivity and local engagement, rather than tactical precision and technological superiority. The extraction route she proposed followed traditional paths that had been used by traders and travelers for generations, avoiding areas where enemy forces maintained strong positions, while utilizing terrain features that provided natural concealment from surveillance systems. Her knowledge of local customs would allow them to move through populated areas without triggering hostile responses from communities that had been alienated by previous military operations that had ignored cultural sensitivities. Morrison's acceptance of Sarah's guidance represented a fundamental shift from institutional confidence in technological solutions toward recognition that success in complex cultural environments required human expertise that could not be replaced by advanced equipment or tactical training. His decision to follow her recommendations reflected desperation born of tactical failure, but it also acknowledged realities that had been systematically excluded from mission. Planning focused on quantifiable variables rather than human dynamics. The journey towards safety tested every assumption about modern warfare as the team abandoned reliance on technological systems in favor of human knowledge that had been earned through years of experience in environments where cultural understanding determined survival. Sarah's guidance led them through terrain that appeared dangerous according to tactical analysis but was actually safe because of tribal relationships that provided protection through traditional customs rather than military force. Rodriguez discovered that basic medical techniques were more effective than advanced equipment when treating injuries under field conditions where sophisticated devices could not function optimally. His respect for Sarah's expertise grew as her knowledge of field trauma treatment proved superior to technological solutions that had been designed for controlled environments rather than combat operations in hostile territory. Bradley learned that navigation based on cultural landmarks was more reliable than GPS systems that could be compromised through electronic warfare. His confidence in technological solutions was replaced by appreciation for human knowledge that had been developed through generations of people who had traveled the same routes long before satellite positioning systems had been invented. They moved through territory that had been considered impassable according to computer analysis, Sarah's understanding of local customs allowed them to receive assistance from communities that had no reason to help foreign soldiers except for cultural traditions that emphasized hospitality toward travelers who demonstrated respect for local ways. Her ability to communicate in local languages and understand social protocols opened doors that no technological system could have accessed. The teen's survival depended entirely on capabilities that had been dismissed as irrelevant during mission. Planning focused on technological superiority and tactical precision. Sarah's expertise in human terrain proved more valuable than any advanced equipment when operating in environments where cultural sensitivity determined whether communities would provide assistance or alert enemy forces to their presence. Morrison's transformation from skeptical commander to grateful leader reflected the institutional learning that occurred when technological confidence encountered cultural complexity in environments where human relationships mattered more than advanced equipment. His recognition of Sarah's expertise represented acknowledgement that modern warfare required capabilities that could not be downloaded or transmitted through encrypted communication systems. The successful extraction that followed demonstrated the effectiveness of human intelligence over technological solutions. When operating in complex cultural environments where understanding people mattered more than destroying targets. Sarah's guidance had saved lives that would have been lost if the team had continued to rely on conventional approaches that emphasized tactical precision over cultural sensitivity. The after-action review that followed their return to base reflected institutional recognition that technological superiority alone could not guarantee success in operations conducted in environments where human dynamics determined outcomes more than advanced equipment or tactical training. Sarah's contributions were finally acknowledged as critical to mission success rather than supplementary cultural information that had no operational value. Morrison's recommendation for Sarah's promotion and integration into operational planning represented institutional change that reflected hard-earned lessons about the importance of human intelligence in modern warfare. His respect for her expertise had been earned through shared danger rather than bureaucratic recognition, creating credibility that could not be dismissed through administrative procedures or institutional bias. Rodriguez and Bradley's newfound appreciation for cultural expertise reflected personal transformation that occurred when theoretical knowledge was tested through life-threatening situations where survival depended on understanding human terrain rather than relying on technological solutions. Their willingness to learn from Sarah's experience represented evolution in thinking that extended beyond individual attitudes toward institutional recognition of capabilities that had been systematically undervalued. The mission that had begun with confidence in technological superiority concluded with recognition that success in complex cultural environments required human expertise that could not be replaced by advanced equipment or tactical precision. Sarah's knowledge had proven more valuable than any technological system when operating in territory where understanding people mattered more than destroying targets. Through conventional military means, Sarah returned to her workstation in the intelligence bay with the quiet satisfaction of someone whose expertise had finally been recognized through operational success rather than bureaucratic acknowledgement. Her knowledge had saved lives that would have been lost if institutional bias had continued to prioritize technological solutions over human intelligence that had been earned through years of experience in environments where cultural understanding determined survival. The transformation of SEAL Team 7 from skeptical operators to respectful colleagues reflected institutional learning that occurred when technological confidence was tested through actual combat operations in environments where human dynamics mattered more than advanced equipment. Their recognition of Sarah's expertise represented acknowledgement that modern warfare required capabilities that defied easy categorization through conventional military training programs. The lessons learned through shared danger could not be dismissed through administrative procedures or institutional resistance to change that challenged fundamental assumptions about technological superiority and tactical precision. Sarah's contributions had been proven through operational success that demonstrated the effectiveness of human intelligence over digital solutions when operating in complex cultural environments where understanding relationships mattered more than destroying targets. Her story reminded everyone who witnessed her transformation from dismissed analyst to respected expert that expertise was not always accompanied by recognition, that knowledge was not always valued until survival depended on its application, and that the most important capabilities were often those that operated below the threshold of institutional awareness until crisis demanded their recognition. The quiet competence that had sustained her through months of dismissal and bureaucratic resistance had finally been acknowledged through operational success that could not be denied or minimized through conventional explanations. Her expertise had saved lives through understanding that no technological system could provide, proving that human intelligence remained essential to success in environments where cultural sensitivity determined outcomes more than tactical precision or advanced equipment. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.